All right, hello. As Doug said, I'm a designer at Facebook. I've been there for a little over a year. I've worked on some of our cool, interesting projects, and I'll do a lot of stuff on my own as well. And I thought I would just sort of start out with a quick little story. I was in New York a couple months ago. You guys have been to New York before? It's a great city. And I was walking along with a friend of mine, and she pointed out this bookstore. Apparently, it's a famous bookstore. I've never heard of it. It's called the Strand Bookstore. Anyway, we go inside, and it turns out that it's actually known for, well, 29 kilometers of books. So there's a lot of books in there. And we're walking through trying to figure out what we should take a look at, and she actually pulls out this book and she says that I should read it. It's very me. So I looked at it, and actually I've read many other books by this author before, and I've been wanting to buy this book, so I decided to buy it. This isn't a big deal of a kind of story, but the point is this. We have a world of information at our fingertips now. We can get information on anything factual. I could find out, for example, how to get to this bookstore if I wanted to. I could go online, I could figure out how many books this author has written, I could find out the price. But oftentimes, I don't know what I want, and I am left to interact with friends to inform me of other things, and I'm left with a lot of subjective questions also, such as, where's a really good Italian restaurant, or what movie should I watch, or is there a really cool gallery opening somewhere that I should go check out? And we face a lot of these subjective questions day to day, and they can't really be answered by a computer. So what do? We turn to a trusted community to help us answer. Now, in the wild, a community is really important as a defense mechanism, right? Because if you're facing a lion, obviously you're better off as a family of deer rather than an individual, because the group is larger than the whole. And the group also provides social cues as to what you should do. Should I run? Should I stay? Should I eat? Whatever. But for people, it's a little bit more emotional. Our communities are determined by the people we surround ourselves with, our friends, our family. And the reason is because these people know us, and we know them, and we trust them to help us make decisions as we go through our lives. And it really comes down to this idea of trust. It's sort of the fundamental underlying thing of why social design is so effective. Now, the way that I like to think about relationships in the world is kind of on this graph. There's a lot of different kinds of relationships throughout life. And if we were to graph them out, where we would put the strength of the relationship on the x-axis, from very formal to very intimate, very close, and the timeline of relationships from very lasting all the way down to very short-lived, we'd find that we'd put friends and family and spouse, whatever, in the top right quadrant, very lasting, very intimate. We would go and put coworkers and maybe neighbors into the formal, lasting area. We'd put maybe relationships or college friends into the intimate, ephemeral, people who you're close with but not for that long period of time. And then lastly, brands and services, customer service, your doorman, down in sort of the formal, ephemeral space. But what's important here is to understand that all of our strong ties lie in the upper right. That's where we have the most trust. And the value is that the people who are in this quadrant kind of follow you around as you make decisions in your life. And what they do is they can make recommendations on other relationships you should have. For example, you should meet my friend Tim. He's really cool. You should buy this shoe. You should go to this restaurant, etc. And by doing that, because they're in the trusted circle, they basically throw out these hooks and sort of let you bring these other relationships into your trusted circle as well. You ever have an experience where you're going on a trip and a friend of yours has also been on that trip, and they say, hey, you should really check out this restaurant. I was there, it wasn't in the tour books. I went walking and I found it, and it was really great. And so you go, and you do have a great experience. In fact, it was so great you want to tell your friends about it. That's how we do it. And you feel really good because you were privy to that information about getting a special recommendation on the restaurant, and you really liked it, so you want to pass it on. Well, every day there are millions and millions of people on Facebook having exactly these kind of conversations, in addition to sharing feelings and thoughts and photos and places they've been. And our goal with social design is really to harness this conversation and broaden it and enhance it and make it so these kind of experiences happen more frequently and more often, and that we all have basically a much more informed experience overall. Now, the way I like to think about social design really comes down to these three ideas: identity, conversation, and community. I like to also represent it in terms of a concentric circle model, where we have identity at the center, and conversation in the middle, and community on the outer edge. And the reason I do this is because conversation really serves as the glue between the identity and the community. So the identity is at the center, and the identity says stuff, and the community responds, and identity says more. And this back and forth creates this conversation, which is how everything kind of meshes together. So you could look at a product strategy from the inside out, saying, okay, well, let's start a social product by building an identity and then leveraging the conversation afterwards. And this is what Facebook has done. So when Facebook first came out, it was basically just profiles. Everybody had a profile, and everybody would log in every day just to update their profile. And over time, this became a conversation, the fact that you were updating your profile, and it built out this community of friends, family, trusted individuals that we have now. So now that this is already in place, it seems much more effective to go the other way, to do product strategy from the outside in, meaning utilize the existing community that we have and then define a new kind of conversation with which to finally curate another part of your identity. So start with the conversation and let people curate the identity. Conversation really involves two kinds of experiences. They're different, but they're both very important. It's kind of this loop. We have one person talking to somebody else, the other person responding back. But they can manifest in a lot of different user experiences and products. So for example, listening. Listening is basically the experience where you were to go to a restaurant and you're looking at the menu and you don't really know what you want, but on the menu you see what your friends have previously ordered, what they've reviewed. You're basically using the actions of others to help you make decisions. They do this on the web already, a number of websites where they feature a bunch of different content. They show specific ratings, usually star ratings. And what this tells us, it's a signal that the community at large has liked something or disliked something, and we listen. You know, these people like it, you should watch it. This is the good clip. But the problem with this model is that we don't know who these people are. I don't know who these people are. How do I know that they know even what I would like, or that I would even enjoy the same things they would? We don't. So what we want to do is we want to make it more personal. So what we've done with social plugins, for example, is we put this like button all over the web, and we've let people click on the things they like, and we surface the activity in these plugins. It's basically the same thing, but the difference is that we showcase what your friends like. And by doing that, in addition to showing what the community at large does, we hit that upper right quadrant of trust. And that's where it becomes really valuable, because we're much more likely to be influenced by people we actually know. So since this data exists on profiles, when you build an application with it, you should utilize the information you can to start out with. So users are not a blank slate. They come pre-informed with their information, with their friends. And you use them to connect them to their friends on the site, as well as maybe other people who they haven't met. And you use content from their profile to recommend content to begin with. So for example, Rotten Tomatoes shows movies that your friends like, and also movies that you might like, depending on what's in your profile. In addition, you want to showcase friend activity, because people are doing stuff on your site, and you want to inform the users of what's going on. So Plancast shows your friends' events, and Spotify shows a feed of songs that your friends are adding to your profile. And this is a great way to listen to the community at large, but it's a trusted community, so it's very valuable. The second part is sharing, and that's basically getting people to contribute. And that's really the most important part, because you can't have any content to read until you have content to write. So you look at Facebook, for example, and obviously there's a number of social content examples here, but also there's a number of places in which to engage. There's the composer at the top, where you can share anything you want. You can give feedback on posts, you can answer questions, you can write on people's walls, you can chat, you can send messages, you can like things, etc. And when you do interact, it's very, very easy. We use a lot of Ajax, and you can easily like something, you can easily give a comment. It's very quick, very efficient. Other sites are doing this as well. On Clicker, you can share and rate movies. On Spotify, you can share and recommend songs to friends. These are very basic examples, but the idea still holds. And what we find is that the more contributions that are made to the system, the more activity exists, which is not surprising. But what's important is that the more activity that exists, the more contributions people make, because there's more to talk about. And so we have this positive feedback loop that, that grows exponentially. And when you get that, then you know you've made it. That's what we're just trying to strive for. So these are basically the three main ideas behind a really great social experience. Number one, utilizing personal information and connections to start off with a connected experience by default. Number two, showing the social context everywhere throughout the application. You can't make people dig for it. They got to be right there. And number three, making it really easy to share and give feedback on content to engage more. And at the end of the day, what this really comes down to is this notion of identity. People really want to know themselves more and share who they are and be accepted by the community of people that they trust. If any of you have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's a very well-known psychological theory, which basically says that, well, this is our sort of triangle of needs over time. And right above basic safety needs, which is basically just not getting killed, we have this interesting duality here, where we want to feel a sense of belonging and acceptance by a trusted community, and then we also want to build our own self-esteem. But the diagram stands to reason that we really build our self-esteem on top of feeling loved and accepted by a community. So the more that we can present ourselves and feel accepted, the more that we feel good about ourselves. And that is sort of a positive feedback loop in itself. And it turns out that we're right, because we've done some research, and it turns out the number one reason why people love Facebook is because they want to curate their identity. They want to showcase their personalities to people. They want to feel heard. I must have downloaded hundreds of songs over the last couple years based on the recommendations of my friends. And these songs are some of my favorite songs now. And I can't imagine not having them, because I feel like that is part of who I am. And as we have more experiences in our life, as we learn more about the things around us, we know ourselves better, and that ultimately leads to a lot more happiness. So again, it really comes down to these fundamental things. If you guys ever have any kind of product design questions or decisions you need to make at a company, everything that you need to think about that you want to add should come back to these things. Always ask yourself, if a new feature presents itself, does it actually play to one of these things? And especially for games, games have a great opportunity to really build a sense of identity in sort of a healthy, competitive environment, because what you do is all of the things that you contribute end up reflecting you in your score or your stature in the community. And so the end idea of the game is to basically define what that conversation is to build this other part of your identity again. So it's very simple, but it has a lot of great results, and it's very powerful. So thanks a lot.